Chapter 14, Little Lies. Namjin teased him lightly. Do you think that as your dad I can't see your emotions? Jungkook scratched the back of his neck awkwardly, a small embarrassed gesture. Jin watched him. Then a smile slowly appeared on her face as she joined the teasing. Someone once told me, Mom, I won't marry until I complete my aim. And then there were so many other big speeches. Jungkook immediately looked toward her, his expression filled with helpless embarrassment. Mom, Jin simply folded her arms, playfully, as if she had been waiting for the perfect moment to bring all those old words back. What happened to all of that now? Jungkook had no answer. Instead, he slowly turned his helpless gaze toward Namjoon, looking for support. Dad? See? She's teasing me. Namjoon leaned back casually, but instead of saving him, a teasing smile touched his face. And what do you expect me to do? I'm joining her. Both Jin and Namjoon burst into laughter. Jungkook let out a dramatic sigh, completely defeated. For a few moments, their laughter filled the room. Then, Namjoon's expression slowly softened. His eyes shifted toward Jungkook. Something else was on his mind. Actually, I have something for you. Jungkook's expression changed. Curiosity appeared in his eyes. What is it? Namjoon slowly stood up. He walked toward the cupboard, then crouched down in front of it. From the lower shelf, he carefully took out a small box. He stood up again and returned to Jungkook. Namjoon held the box out to him. Jungkook looked at it. Jin's eyes widened slightly. A familiar recognition crossed her face. Isn't that? But before she could finish, Namjoon quickly raised his hand, stopping her. Jin fell silent. Namjoon then turned his attention back to Jungkook. Kook, take it and see what's inside. These are the things you had with you when the accident happened. Jungkook looked down at the box. Silently. His fingers remained still around it. Namjoon's gaze softened. We never really looked into it before, but I think you should see it now. I suddenly remembered it today. Sorry, I completely forgot about it earlier. It's okay, Dad. Namjoon sighed. A trace of guilt remained on his face. I should have given this to you back then, but it just slipped my mind. Jungkook gently shook his head. A small, reassuring smile appeared on his face. Dad, it's really no big deal. Then, his gaze slowly lowered, toward the box resting in his hands. In Taeyoung's room, Taeyoung hung up the call with her dad, Bogum. She walked toward her bedside table. Her eyes landed on the tiny frame resting there. Inside it, her mother's photograph. Taeyoung gently took the picture out and stared at it. You know, Mom? Cookie, Jungkook has been acting really weird these days. She sighed, then sat down on the edge of the bed. I've told him so many times not to wait for me outside the lecture room, but he still does it every day. Is he a crackhead or something? She paused for a second. Right? I forgot. He did hit his head once. But suddenly, her thoughts wandered back to what had happened in the office earlier. The memory flashed through her mind. Her cheeks slowly turned pink. How do I get that out of my mind? She quickly buried her face in her pillow. Her voice came out shyly. It was so awkward. She then lay back on the bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. For a moment, she remained still, lost in her thoughts. He was looking at me during dinner too, wasn't he? Her gaze slowly shifted back toward her mother's picture. She looked at it again. Mom, what do you think? She bit her lip. A shy smile slowly appeared on her face. You must be thinking your daughter has gone crazy, right? She shook her head slightly. But don't think like that. Your daughter knows how to control her emotions. Taeyoung gently placed the photograph back inside the small frame. She carefully adjusted it neatly on the bedside table. Then, she stared at it for a moment. A soft sigh escaped her lips. I should stop talking about these things with Mom. What must she be thinking about me? She reached for the bedside lamp. Click. The light went off. Taeyoung lay down quietly. Her eyes slowly closed. But even after closing them, Jungkook's face appeared in her mind again. Her eyes immediately opened. Taeyoung quickly pulled the blanket over her head, completely hiding herself beneath it. Ugh! Seriously? At night in Jungkook's room, Jungkook sat quietly on the edge of his bed. In front of him, the box Namjoon had given him. His eyes remained fixed on it for a moment. Then, slowly, he opened it. Inside were several old belongings, and among them, a black backpack. Jungkook carefully took the bag out. He looked at it. A faint sense of familiarity crossed his face. I've seen this bag in many of my old pictures. He placed the backpack beside him, then turned his attention back to the box. One by one, he began checking the other items. A small keychain, a handmade brooch with the name Cookie on it, and then a pen. Letters were scribbled across it. Jungkook picked up the pen, JT. He examined it carefully, his brows slowly pulled together. JT? What's the full form? He paused, trying to remember, trying to connect the unfamiliar letters to something from his past. Jungkook? Ugh, that doesn't make sense. Next morning, in the car, Jungkook and Taehyung were heading to the company. The car moved smoothly along the road. Jungkook kept his attention ahead, but from the corner of his eyes, he glanced at her. Then, slowly, he reached toward the screen. A song began to play. Soft music filled the car. As the beat started, Taehyung's body unconsciously moved slightly with the rhythm. Just a small movement. But Jungkook noticed it. A smile appeared on his face. He muttered softly to himself. Yes, she liked it too. Taehyung turned her head toward him, her brows slightly pulled together. Did you say something? Jungkook quickly cleared his throat, trying to act normal. How's the song? Taehyung listened carefully for a few seconds. The soft music continued playing between them. It's nice. A bit old, but I really like it. Jungkook's face instantly brightened. He tried to hide it, but the happiness on his face was obvious. Taehyung noticed it from the corner of her eye. A thought quietly crossed her mind. This is the first time we're listening to music together while riding in the car. She glanced at him again. He looks really happy today. Nice. Meanwhile, Jungkook tightened his grip on the steering wheel slightly. A thought ran through his mind. It took me so long to find this song. His mind wandered back to the night before, back to his long search. The songwriter changed the title a few years later. That's why it was so hard to find. He had searched for hours, before finally recognizing it. A small smile appeared on his lips. And then I had to add it to the car playlist last night. It was complicated, but I can do anything for you. Jungkook turned his head slightly. At that same moment, Taehyung also looked at him. Their eyes met, briefly. Taehyung quickly looked away, her gaze shifting toward the window. Jungkook turned his attention back to the road and continued driving, but the soft smile on his face never disappeared. The song continued playing quietly between them. Then, after a few seconds of silence, Jungkook spoke. You know it's a romantic song. Taehyung kept looking outside the window. Yeah, the lyrics say so. Jungkook hesitated. His fingers remained around the steering wheel. For a moment, he seemed unsure. Then he asked the next question. Have you ever loved someone? Taehyung slowly turned her head toward him. For a second, she simply stared at him. Then her jaw tightened. Her answer came through gritted teeth. No, never. Her expression hardened. I hate love and love marriages. Juk glanced at her, surprised. Why? Taehyung's expression grew colder. Her eyes slowly returned to the passing road outside the window. I can't answer that question. You wouldn't understand. You don't have your memories. Jungkook's expression changed slightly. The words caught his attention. Is it related to my memories? The question made Taehyung's fingers tighten slightly around her bag. But she didn't look at him. Instead, she spoke coldly, focus on driving, and once again, silence filled the car. Only the romantic song continued playing quietly in the background. Kendo Enterprise. At lunchtime in cafeteria, Hansok was sitting with her new group during lunch. The cafeteria was filled with the usual sounds of employees talking and eating. But from another table nearby, Hansok overheard a few employees whispering. Did you see Mr. John waiting for her again today? Another employee quickly responded. Yeah, and he even changed his shirt. Hansok's lips slowly curved into a sly smile. A new piece of gossip. Fresh material. Without wasting another second, she quickly took out her phone. Her fingers moved across the screen as she typed a message in the office gossip group chat. Seems like our CEO and the new teacher are getting very close. Within seconds, the rumors started spreading across different departments. One message after another. Hansok leaned back in her seat. A satisfied expression appeared on her face. Then, another idea suddenly struck her. Her eyes shifted toward a girl sitting beside her. Hansok turned to her. Can you call that? Taehyung to our department? Tell her someone needs help with something. The girl hesitated. Something about Hansok's expression made her pause. But when she noticed Hansok's strange, evil smile, she reluctantly agreed. Later at branding and advertising wing, the girl brought Taehyung there. Taehyung looked around the department. Where is Mr. Chung's desk? The girl gestured ahead. Oh, let me take you there. They started walking through the department. But almost immediately, Taehyung noticed something strange. Employees were looking at her. Some whispered. Others simply stared. Taehyung's expression hardened slightly. She could feel the unusual atmosphere around her. Then, Hanseok suddenly walked toward her. A mocking smile appeared on her face. Oh my. Look who is here. She looked Taehyung up and down, then smirked. Oops, maybe I should say the CEO's girlfriend. She stepped closer. Her mocking expression grew sharper. Or should I say you seduced him, did some magic, and now he listens only to you? Huh? Taeyang stared at her. Inside her mind, irritation immediately rose. Doesn't she have any other work besides this? Is she getting paid for gossiping all day? She should be fired. I need to talk to Jungkook. Hansuk waited for a response. When Taeyoung didn't immediately answer, her voice became louder. Hello? I'm talking to you. Taeyoung finally looked at her, completely unimpressed. Yeah, I'm listening. Hansuk's expression changed. She crossed her arms. Watch your tone when you talk to me. She held Taeyoung's gaze. Just because you've trapped Sir in your web of love doesn't mean the rest of us will follow your orders. Taeyoung's eyebrows lifted slightly. She couldn't understand where the accusation had even come from. When did I even order you for anything? We haven't even talked since that day. Hansuk's expression immediately twisted with anger. Just shut up. Taeyoung stared at her. Her patience was clearly wearing thin. Inside, her thoughts became even more exasperated. Can a company really not function without someone like her? A dramatic thought crossed her mind. Are all companies filled with characters like this? Hansuk suddenly turned her attention toward the surrounding employees. She raised her voice slightly, making sure everyone could hear. Now tell us. She looked directly at Taeyoung. Then, her lips curved into a smirk. How did you trap Mr. John in your love? She smirked. Come on, tell us. Taeyoung remained calm. Her expression showed no interest in playing along. Why should I? Hansuk immediately pretended to look shocked. Her eyes widened theatrically. Oh, she paused, then turned the situation around. So you admit you trapped him in love, but behind them, Jungkook was already standing there. He had heard everything. Hansuk's eyes suddenly moved toward him. She noticed him. But she acted as though she had only just realized he had arrived. Because this had been her plan all along, she had arranged for Jungkook to come there at the same time. Hansuk turned toward him. Mr. John, did you hear her words? Jungkook slowly walked forward. He stopped right in front of Taeyoung. His expression looked serious and angry. Taeyoung looked at him. Before she could say anything, Jungkook spoke. Tae, how could you do this to me? Everyone around them gasped softly. Taeyoung's eyes widened in confusion. But Jungkook continued. His expression became even more dramatic. Was my love just a game for you? He placed a hand over his heart, his voice filled with exaggerated pain. Is your heart made of stone? Don't you have feelings? For a moment, Taeyoung simply stared at him. Confusion remained on her face. Then, the corners of her lips began to move. A laugh escaped. The more Jungkook spoke dramatically, the more Taeyoung laughed. Soon, she couldn't hold it back. The surrounding employees looked completely confused. Hansuk's expression darkened. She couldn't understand why Taeyoung was laughing. Her irritation quickly grew. See? Sir? Look, she's laughing at you like foolish. Jungkook ignored her completely. He continued his dramatic acting, turning his attention only toward Taeyoung. Tae, tell me why you did this. Taeyoung was still laughing. She could barely keep herself composed. What exactly did I do? Jungkook looked at her with exaggerated hurt. Did you trap me in your fake love? That was enough. Taeyoung couldn't control her laughter anymore. She laughed harder, almost bending over. The entire situation had become too ridiculous for her. Jungkook's gaze remained fixed on Taeyoung. His dramatic expression softened. Then, Jungkook suddenly spoke seriously. Tae? Taeyoung slowly stopped laughing. The smile faded from her face. She looked at him, still trying to understand what he was about to say. Jungkook glanced around. Since everyone is here, I want to say something. Taeyoung looked at him, confused. Jungkook's eyes returned to her. Tae, do you remember the song we listened to while coming here? Taeyoung answered quietly. Yes. A soft smile appeared on Jungkook's face. He looked directly into her eyes. No. Bear. Taeyoung's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened slightly. Then Jungkook spoke. Calmly, clearly. Cookie loves you. Hanseok's face instantly turned pale. Her plan had completely backfired. Taeyoung stood stunned. Her lips parted slightly. She bit her lips. You remember? A storm of thoughts rushed through her mind. No? He's just trying to save me this way, right? But Jungkook continued. His voice became softer. His expression carried something sincere. Your cookie behaved rudely with you when you kept sending me messages, your artwork, even when you called me. He lowered his head slightly, a quiet apology in his expression. I'm sorry. Taeyoung's eyes widened. She stared at him, still unable to process his words. Then, Jungkook continued. Do you remember your birthday? I gave you that necklace with the bear pendant. It was a special gift from me. Taeyoung barely had time to react. Suddenly, Jungkook pulled her closer. Taeyoung gasped. Her hands landed against his chest. Jungkook leaned closer. The entire department seemed to hold its breath. His voice dropped to a soft whisper. Bear, Cookie loves you. Then, slowly, softly, he kissed her. Taehyung's eyes widened in shock. Everything around them seemed to freeze. After a few seconds, Jungkook slowly pulled away. Taehyung remained stunned. Before she could even understand what had just happened, Jungkook suddenly turned toward Hansuk. His expression changed completely. Cold. Serious. And Miss Hansuk, you are officially fired. Hansuk froze. Her face went blank. Jungkook didn't look away. Legal proceedings will also begin against you. You have repeatedly misbehaved with juniors and interns, and there are many other violations. I have a complete list of your misconduct. Hansuk's face turned completely pale. She stood frozen, unable to respond. Meanwhile, Taehyung was still standing there. Her mind was desperately trying to process everything that had just happened. The confession, the kiss, everything. Before she could say anything, Jungkook suddenly lifted her into his arms. The employees gasped again. Taehyung was caught completely off guard, and without another word, Jungkook walked out of the department with her. Outside, Jungkook was carrying her in his arms. Employees who hadn't seen what happened earlier stopped in their tracks, completely stunned. As they passed by, their eyes followed the unexpected sight. Taehyung, in the CEO's arms. It looked exactly like a dramatic scene from a drama. Whispers followed them. Jungkook's aura had completely changed. He walked straight ahead, carrying her firmly, not even glancing at anyone who passed by. Taehyung, meanwhile, remained confused. Her mind was still trying to process everything that had just happened. Jungkook entered his cabin. He gently placed her down on the couch. As he leaned forward to set her down, their eyes met. Taehyung suddenly realized something. Her hands had instinctively wrapped around the back of his neck while he was carrying her. Embarrassed, she slowly removed them. Jungkook looked at her. A slight frown appeared on his face. Why were you just standing there and listening to her words? You should have said something. Taehyung was still staring at his face. She answered honestly. You came there before I could say anything. Jungkook suddenly tilted his head. A playful expression appeared on his face. Am I looking handsome? Taehyung subconsciously nodded. Then, she quickly shook her head. Jungkook chuckled softly at her reaction. He leaned closer. Taehyung leaned back slightly, not too far, just enough to create a little distance. Nervously, she bit her lip. Jungkook watched her reaction. Give me your reply. Bear. Taehyung's eyes flickered. The word affected her more than she wanted to admit. No one is here. You don't have to pretend. Her voice sounded uncertain, conflicted. Almost as if a part of her wanted him to call her Bear, but she still believed he was only forcing himself to act this way. Jungkook noticed her trying to avoid his gaze. He gently pulled her closer again. Who said I was pretending? Ying blinked. Huh? Juk looked straight into her eyes. There was no hesitation in his expression. I remember you, my bear. For a moment, everything around them felt frozen. Taehyung's heartbeat grew louder. Her eyes remained locked with his. Jungkook continued softly. I think you still don't believe me, do you? Why? He smiled slightly. I guess I'll have to make it easier for you to believe that it's all true. He leaned closer again. Taehyung instinctively turned her face away from his intense gaze. But Jungkook gently held her chin and slowly turned her face toward him.